Welcome back, everybody, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Lorenzo Phan, sitting here with...
Kevin Hord.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Pretty good, yeah.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, recording this just a little bit late because it was Super Bowl Sunday, so...
That was Lorenzo's choice. Just want to make that official. I had nothing to do with that decision.
Which is really funny because I don't watch a lot of sports otherwise, but I do watch the Super Bowl every year out of... It's more out of a pop culture driven decision.
That makes sense.
You know, like I like keeping up on kind of what pop culture is referencing, and Super Bowl, like whether or not you think it's important, always kind of brings out a lot of new memes and references that get made. This year, spoiler, if you have not seen it, the Bud Knight was killed in a Bud Light advertising, which I thought was pretty damn amazing.
So I watched so little TV with commercials that this was the first time that I had ever seen the Bud Knight.
Oh, so quick aside, if you have no context for who the Bud Knight is, it was an ad campaign that started last Super Bowl, and everybody called out Bud Light for basically just ripping off Game of Thrones left and right, which was fine and clear, and Bud Light played into it. And then the joke this year was that HBO stepped in and actually had the Mountain tear out the Bud Knight's eyes in a commercial and killed him right off. So
yeah,
yep,
it is true.
So yeah, the other reason I watch too is for a lot of movies will drop, you know, new TV spots and stuff. There used to be full trailers and stuff, but because, you know, the asking price of these advertisings are so expensive, Disney just bought 3 30-second spots. And the other trend now is to have, like, there was a Shaw and Hobbs trailer that was released on Friday, but then they did like a shortened version of that for Super Bowl, and then basically at the end of it was like, go online to see the full trailer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trend now for movie previews.
Right.
It's just like hey, this exists. If you want to see more, go here. But yeah.
Yeah, it is sad to say that the commercial that Lorenzo and I put together for the Super Bowl did not get picked up, so no one was able to see that one. We fell a little short on our funding goal, but maybe next year.
Quite short on the funding goal.
Yeah.
By all the monies.
By all of them. All the money.
Anyways, the topic at hand here is Star Wars Resistance, the episode that did in fact air yesterday on February 3rd, 2019.
I watched it during the Super Bowl.
Very nice. I clearly did not. I stuck with it. Also, this year, too, was special because LA Rams. I live in Orange County, which is LA adjacent. And, yeah, clearly it didn't work out for us. So, which I know you have feelings on the Rams.
I'm a St. Louisan or near St. Louisan. So I'm not particularly fond of the Rams because of some bad blood between the team owner and St. Louis. So, you know, I wasn't displeased to see them not win. I was really hoping for like St. Louis Rams
blowout.
KC Chiefs game, but the Chiefs didn't beat the Patriots, and so Tom Brady got number 6 instead.
Yeah. Yep. And now they're at Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
But back to the topic at hand. The episode we will be talking about for Resistance is the First Order occupation.
It is indeed.
Yeah, so as usual, I'll do a quick summary here. As always, if you have not seen this episode, that is, again, the First Order occupation. Spoiler alert, full spoiler alert, I will be summarizing the whole episode. Ready to go?
You got it.
All right, let's go as quickly as we can. This is actually a pretty packed episode. We start out with Sonara. She's trying to leave the Colossus, but cannot because the First Order has placed a lockdown on the Colossus. Nobody's able to leave. A TIE fighter flies in. Niku, we cut to the marketplace. Niku, Tam, and Kaz are walking around. He notes that it's the 4th TIE fighter to arrive this week. Kaz corrects him and says it is in fact the 5th. Kaz, Tam, and Niku have a little debate about the First Order's role on the Colossus. Kaz is not quite cool with it, but does not reveal anything about why he might dislike the First Order occupation on the Colossus. Tam sees it as a positive, that they are protectors and that they in fact were rescuers of Torah in the previous week.
Yeah, they definitely go back and forth on this throughout the episode.
Yes. Meanwhile, there's a small little kerfuffle, I guess. A group of stormtroopers try to arrest a Rhodian because he doesn't have proper identification. Kaz interjects, but then Niku kind of ends up giving away all of his information, name, where he works, stuff like that. But then that gives the Rhodian enough time to find his identification, shows it to the stormtroopers. They are pleased with that result, do not arrest the Rhodian, but in the meantime, Kaz slips away. We cut to Captain Doza, and he is chatting with Commander Pyre. They have a little conversation about Doza is trying to reassert his role as the leader of the Colossus, whereas the stormtroopers seem to be overstepping their boundaries in that regard. We cut back to the repair shop, and we see Kaz talking to Yeager. Kaz wants to send a message to the Resistance. Yeager says it's a little too risky with all the stormtroopers. Messages could be intercepted, such things. Stormtroopers arrive at the repair shop. They are looking for a pirate spy. They suspect Kaz and Sinara. They have evidence on both of them, showing that they were near the tower when Tora Doza was being kidnapped by pirates. Kaz, knowing this information, goes to spy on Sinara, and pretty much immediately acts like an idiot again, is how I'm going to describe this, and bumps into boxes drop on him, bumps into more boxes, makes a lot of noise, draws the attention of a few stormtroopers, but he slips away as Sinara walks off. Sinara slips into a little corner, calls Kragan. Sinara cannot get off the Colossus and is asking Kragan for help. Kragan also cannot help because there is the First Order presence and cannot get within 5 kilometers of the Colossus. Kaz mentions that he wants to help Sinara from the stormtroopers. He has a little conversation with BB-8. But then moving on, Kaz does meet up with Sinara, and talking via code kind of explains that he understands that Sinara is a spy and pirate of some sort. Kaz ends up hiding her in a container to sneak her onto a cargo ship to try and get her off planet. Sinara does ask why Kaz is helping Sinara, and he does respond, "You may be a pirate, but I know you're a good person." While they're trying to sneak her onto a cargo ship, BB-8 is trying to hack the ship to open the door to let her on, and ends up triggering a alarm system on the ship. This, of course, catches the attention of a bunch of stormtroopers. Sinara does sneak on board. BB-8 does get the door open. And as the stormtroopers are headed that direction, Kaz lures them away, creates a distraction. Kaz is being chased by these stormtroopers and runs into a dead end. Stormtroopers are on their way, and as they make their way, Sinara shows back up and knocks the stormtroopers out. Let's see. Kaz and Sinara run back to the shuttle, but it's too late. They have taken off. There are no more shuttles on the Colossus that are leaving anytime soon. So then Kaz goes to Niku for help. Niku mentions there are escape pods that are underwater. They end up being chased by stormtroopers again. Niku and BB-8 split up from Sinara and Kaz. Sinara and Kaz head down to the lower levels where these escape pods are. Niku again ends up in the same little dead end, and BB-8 helps him out. We cut back to Sinara and Kaz. Sinara enters the escape pod. There's not much time before the stormtroopers will be coming down to find them. And so they say a quick goodbye, and then the escape pod launches off. As Sinara is making her way through the bottom of the ocean, She gives Kragan another call and gives out the coordinates to where she is. Kaz returns to the shop and talks to Tam. They have another little conversation about the role of the First Order on the Colossus. Niku ends up returning too, still kind of freaked out about being chased by stormtroopers. We then cut to see the pod, the emergency pod, emerge from the water, and Sonara is picked up by Kragan, where they head on off into the horizon. And then we cue fanfare.
Cue fanfare. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you. Really quickly, this one was directed by Bosco Ng, and the writer is Kevin Burke and Chris Doc Wyatt, as he is credited.
Yes, sir. Chris Doc Wyatt. Everybody's good friend, Doc. Him and Marty have some time traveling adventures.
Yeah. Where do you want to start with this one, man?
I'm gonna start at the beginning where Sonara's talking to this droid. So it sounds like nobody gets to leave, right? But later there's like 3 transports.
Yeah, like there's a full lockdown, it seems. But then
guess I'm thinking maybe what it is that like either those are private transports or like already commissioned transports or something. But there's not just like the general like hop on the Greyhound bus and take off. Like the bus station shut down. It's not that the entire planet is shut down, right? But also I was thinking she is a salvager, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't she just take her salvaging ship out on a salvaging mission and not come back?
But then I think part of it is, this is what confused me, because I thought Kragan wasn't able to even get near the planet, but he just can't get near the Colossus.
Mm-hmm.
And he might have said that specifically, but it just was my misunderstanding there.
Right.
So then I agree with you that when at the end she just gets picked up from above the water, like I don't know why she couldn't have just flown away.
Right. And to that note, I don't think it's like a legal restriction or something for Kragan to be in the vicinity, but I think he's like, nope, First Order's there, like I'm not even gonna
he doesn't want to risk it.
Not testing it, not trying it.
Yeah.
And maybe the 5 kilometers is like an arbitrary thing. Maybe it's like the span of their sensory equipment. I don't know that they're monitoring. Who knows?
Yeah, he just doesn't want to get close.
Did you like this thing with Niku where he just totally rattles off like he's just rattling Kaz's stats off?
No, I didn't.
I thought it was hilarious.
No, I don't have a major problem with it. It just, for everything that we have seen Niku do, it's, I don't know, like it's not out of character.
I think it's pretty much like spot on for Niku. Like he's misinterpreting the situation around him, right? And like he even says to Kaz, he's like, oh, you would know that there was 5 because you're so interested in the First Order.
Yeah.
He's like, you must be so happy that they're here. And Kaz says, yeah, if by happy you mean nauseous. And he was like, exactly, nauseous with excitement. And then when the First Order, show up and Kaz like sticks up for this Rhodian guy, then he draws the attention on himself, and they're like, hey, who are you? And he was like, just a common citizen, don't worry about me. And Niku steps in, he's like, oh, he's just nervous because he's really excited to meet you guys. And they're like, well, who are you? And he was like, oh, it's Kaz, and he works here, and this is where the location is, and yada, yada, yada. I thought it was great, man.
No, look, even if it's in character, it still annoys the shit out of me. Like, there's nothing about that I am down for. It's just one of those things where it's like things Jar Jar does is in character, but it just still annoys me, right? Like,
fair enough. I guess I just that particular type of humor with Niku strikes gold with me. I like it.
Yeah, like for me, it just kind of it hits me in just like I'm genuinely like face palming to it. Right.
I can totally see that.
Like it strikes me as too genuine for me to kind of find it funny. It's just, especially like with the stakes that this episode was trying to throw in, where like the episode title involves the word occupation. Like that's a very heavy word.
It is. And I'm going to get to that all the way at the end.
Okay, and that's fine. But then for this episode to still... Can we just address the humor of this episode all at once right now,
sure.
too? So, yeah, starting here, there are jokes that do work for me in this episode. This is not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little bit too much too soon.
Okay.
But then later on, there's a running gag that does work with me, and it's the janitor of the Colossus that we've seen before.
Yeah, so I was trying to look up this guy's name. He's the character who has like a big yellow mushroom head and almost like a little red fez that he wears. And then other distinguishing features is basically just like goggles for eyes, right? And that's about it.
Something like that. Yeah, and we've never seen him without these goggles otherwise.
Yes. And so I tried to look it up to identify who this character is. And... I looked at the voiceover cast, and the same guy that does the voice for Captain Doza does a voice for somebody named Rolt, R-O-L-T, right? So then I'm like, okay, I don't recognize this name. So I tried looking up Rolt. Doesn't pull anything off of Wikipedia yet, so I don't know if that's the name of this character or if that's the name of... It's
not Rolt. I do have the name of this character.
Okay.
And it's... Opipit. That's spelled O. Yeah, Opeepit.
Oh.
And he is a Frigosian. Frigosian. Sorry.
Frigosian. Awesome.
Frigosian.
So where do the Frigosians come from? Now I'm interested. Well,
they are native. So according to Wikipedia, they are native to the planet Tanzil 5. They had sensitive eyes, so that's why they have to wear goggles. Yeah, so it looks like we've seen a couple at Mazkanata's castle.
That's right.
On Takodana.
Which Takodana was mentioned in this episode.
Yes, which I did like. I appreciated that. That was a potential... landing spot for one of the cargo ships.
Yeah, basically when Kaz is like, okay, get on the ship, go hide in the cargo hold or whatever, and you can get off when the ship reaches Takodana. So it's like a stop along the way for whatever,
just to
type
go
of
wherever you need afterwards. Right? Yeah. So, anyways, the running joke with OP Pit is that he's always seen with like cleaning equipment. It's like a floor buffer of some sort. The stormtroopers like mess with him and like end up taking it, and then he gets really sad.
Yeah, they definitely harass him repeatedly, and then eventually they're like, who are you, what are you doing? He's talking to them, but he speaks Frigosian, I guess I would assume. And the stormtroopers are like, no, you're under arrest, we're taking this thing from you. And they take his floor buffer, and he's pissed. It's hilarious
because it's like his one purpose in life. And then there is a gag within a gag later on. So as Kaz and Sinar are descending down to the lower levels to get her to the escape pod, there's a cut in action to show them on the elevator. There's the Muzak that's playing.
It's definitely an awkward two people in an elevator scene, and then this guy gets on.
Yeah, because the doors open, Kaz is about to run out, but it's not the right floor. Opipit walks in, and they're all like, so how's it going? And Opipit tells them the tale of losing his beloved machine.
He's definitely bitching about his floor buffer being stolen.
Right. So, look, the surface joke of cutting the action and having the awkward elevator scene I didn't think it was well placed, but then layering Opipit into it, I was like, okay, like that's funny inside of all of this. It still kills the pacing at that point for me.
I
But
think
little,
that's exactly
that
what it was
flash of
meant to
humor.
do.
But again, the stakes are so high in this episode that it's really weird that they're throwing these like little pacing cuts, and then we get a running gag of Kaz being super clumsy this episode, which we haven't seen in a while. So it starts with him hiding behind some boxes, which I mentioned in the summary. Boxes fall on him. We get a few more of him running into walls as he's trying to sneak and evade away from people.
Yeah, there's definitely one time where he's kind of like hiding around the corner with BB-8, and then he goes to take off running, and it looks like he deliberately bumps into the wall. It's a very bizarre.
Yeah, it's weird.
Not very fluid kind of action at all.
Yeah, so I think the intent is that he turns around and doesn't see a wall there, bumps into it, keeps going, and then at one other point he like drops a mask or something like that, right? And then
it like falls on
for the remainder of the episode.
Yeah, like falls on his head, and then that becomes his disguise, even though he's still wearing his trademark gray and green jacket / jumpsuit.
Yeah. So like he bumps into more boxes, and then like the mask falls on his head or something like that, and then he catches it. Those running gags definitely did not hit me right at all. Again, considering that in the previous episodes we were kind of down with
things
Kaz's
were ramping
progress.
Up. They're pushing forward.
Kaz's skill as a spy was progressing.
Mm-hmm.
And then here it seems to have regressed like 10 steps back.
Yeah, okay. It didn't fall that far back for me, but I did feel like a minimum a stutter step, shall we call it.
Right. Okay.
So,
yeah.
Do you have anything else about the humor of this episode?
No, those were kind of the big things I remember. Was there anything else regarding big broad jokes besides anything Niku related maybe?
I don't think so. It was like Niku, and it was Opipit, definitely.
Like there's a later scene with Niku when he's kind of trying to figure out when they go to him for help and he's taking things quite literally.
That's definitely part of his character. Like, so the joke is that after the ships leave and Sonara's like, fuck, we're stuck here. I'm stuck here. She's like, what do I do? And then Kaz says, oh, I know a guy who knows the Colossus like the back of his hand. And then you immediately cut to Niku. Like, I don't see the correlation here. I look at my hand, I look at the hallway. I look at my hand, I look at the hallway. And Kaz is like, okay, forget about that. Like, this is what we need to do. And one, like, Niku can't focus because he's like, hallway, hand. And then Kaz is like, look, Sonar needs to sneak off the Colossus. And he's like, why would you need to sneak? Why don't you just walk regularly like everybody else does? Just go to customs and then you leave. And she's like, I can't do that. So it's not until Kaz says escape that Niku figures out a plan. He's like, oh, you wish to escape?
Why is escape the trigger word? I didn't
escape pod.
Get that. Okay, but
that's it. Because he's stuck on, like, he's thinking that she's literally looking to sneak, right? And what she's doing is she's trying to leave without detection. And so when Kaz is like, no, she needs to escape, he's like, oh, well, if you want to escape, use the escape pods. And then she can sneak while she's escaping. He's very proud of himself. This is...
See, that was a small leap that I even... It was taking so long to get that to that point that it genuinely did confuse me as to why escape was the trigger word that got him to finally like snap out of whatever the fuck he was doing and help them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he was concentrating too much on the word sneak. Right, it happens.
Right. Yeah,
especially to an individual like Niku, and yeah, it was only when Kaz said escape that he's like, oh, escape, like sure, escape pod, those are a thing. Which is weird that like a city would have escape pods that just fire you off into the ocean.
it's weird that they have escape pods, but not many.
Kaz says
Like,
there's only one remaining.
Right.
Like,
and
when they get down there, he's like, oh, the last one.
So, like, why aren't they being replenished, and who took the other two, and what were they for?
And why do you have to go all the way down past engineering and, like, sneak into lower levels of the Colossus to get to it? Like, I would assume that there would be one in the high tower that just, like, pew, fires you off into somewhere.
Yeah, like, either fires you up into space or, like a cruise ship lifeboat, the ones that, like, launch you into the water.
Mm-hmm. Like Captain Phillips.
Yes, yeah, that style, yeah. Like, you slide off and you go, you ram straight into the water. I figured it'd be something like that, maybe. Like, if there's a fire on the Colossus, but you can't jump off the Colossus into the water, then, you hop in a lifeboat, one of these life pods,
But this is basically an escape pod that we see on spacefaring vessels that is just already located underwater on, like, one of the support piers or something. It just fires you off into the ocean.
Yeah, and it launches off with quick speed too.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice shot. I was
kind of surprised at that. Yeah, and then she does pass. Just sticking with that escape pod section, she does pass by a sea monster. Is that Bebo's mother?
I don't think so. My first reaction was, is that Bebo's mother? And then, because I watched this episode twice, I don't think it is.
Yeah, it looked. It
was similar,
close, but it was still in it was enshadowed. So it was hard to tell. Like, you see the eyes. The eyes look similar, but I agree. It didn't seem. It seemed of the similar species, but maybe not the.
Maybe it was the male of the species. Could be.
Possibly.
Either that or Bebo's mother and one of the Sentinels from the Matrix mated and made this thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, it was tentacled, but it was differently tentacled, more along the lines of a jellyfish than a squid.
Yeah.
But it did have kind of the hourglass pupils, but not quite. I'll have to go back and look at it again, or if anybody can tell us one way or the other. Yeah. Cool. Thumbs up to that.
And I'm not going to lie, for a few shots, I honestly thought the sea monster was going to attack the pod. Like, we get a shot change, so we get a lateral shot of the pod crossing in front of the sea monster, and then we get an angled shot from above, and then as Sonara's turning her way to head to the surface of the water, we kind of get the sea monster kind of turns to it one more time, and I'm thinking, like, there can't be that much time left in this episode. What? And then it just changes shot again, and we never see the monster again. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it
didn't affect my viewing of the episode, but for a hot second, I was like.
That being said, really maybe it is Bebo's mom, because otherwise it's just plain weird.
Yeah.
Because, like, if it's not, you're like, okay, we got a sea monster for nothing.
Like another one, like another sea monster.
Like, it doesn't necessarily ramp up the tension.
Yeah, it's just kind of there. It's like atmospheric more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of kind of building out what is potentially in this large oceanic ecosystem besides Bebo and Bebo's mother.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Bebo's mom's pretty big, so.
Right. There's a whole lot of ocean.
Interesting. I wanted to talk about this dynamic back and forth between Kaz and Tam regarding the First Order. So it's explicitly stated, like, Kaz is like, they're the bad guys, and Tam's like, they're not the bad guys. Like, they're here to do a job. Like, what makes you think they're the bad guys, or why are you so sure? Like, why does she have that opinion?
Yeah,
because it's not even, you can't even equate this to, like, cops are good, cops are bad thing, because the First Order is a fringe thing from the government anyway.
Right. And they literally just saw them. Well, like, they discuss... The discussion starts before, and then they see a Rhodian get accosted by a group of stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, at the end of the episode, Tam is still on their side.
Mm-hmm.
Or she's still sympathetic to them, at the very least, right?
She does make one really good point.
Uh-huh.
She says Doza asked for this. And whether or not she knows that Captain Doza was, like, pressured into allowing this to happen, I guess word on the street is that Doza asked for the First Order to come in and help out with security. And Doza's little house droid even says, you know what, maybe Captain Pyre's right, because this is the safest that the platform has ever been, which leads me to believe that there has been quite a passing of time between the last episode and this episode, between the Doza dilemma and the First Order occupation. There's been some time that has passed for there to be statistics to justify the droid saying this is the safest it's ever been.
Right. And, like, definitely at least within a week or so, because they mentioned how they're counting, Niku and Kaz are counting how many TIE fighters are showing up.
Mm-hmm. And Sonara has kind of been MIA.
Right. And so they're all wondering where Sonara has been. That's who, and is it also the robot that does mention that there has been a lack of pirate attacks, or does Tam also mention that separately to Kaz? I feel like Tam brings that up as evidence as well.
Tam might have brought that up, but she definitely brings up that
the Doza,
that Tora was quote unquote rescued, using air quotes, rescued by the First Order. Yeah. And Kaz, of course, knows, but he can't dispute her claim.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, Tam's role on this show kind of... I don't dislike her as a character, but she's still kind of fringed.
Yeah, like, I agree with you. And as you were saying earlier about Nico, that it just didn't quite fit for you, this doesn't fit with Tam for me.
I don't disagree with you there either, but again, it's because, like, she doesn't get to join in on many of the adventures, so it's hard to determine why she's coming to this conclusion.
She's definitely been auxiliary so far.
Yeah. So I wonder if she is just kind of protection overall, you know. I really wish we got to know her more, because I really would have liked this idea of kind of getting into the mindset of somebody with the information that she has, kind of getting to this conclusion where it's like, okay, the government's stepping in, the government's good, the government's always going to help us.
And like I said, I could totally understand that, but it's not the government, because the government is the New Republic.
Right, not
the First Order is like a militia group.
Yeah.
That is setting
like
themselves
an unsanctioned militia group.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I see that, and I agree. That's why it's hard to get into the psychology of why Tam is it maybe because they're already kind of on the outer skirts that Tam is kind of just accepting of any sort of organized authority that's helping?
Could be, but yeah. Right. I don't know.
There's no information. Yeah, there's not a lot of information here. Because even in this episode, Tam is kind of there at the beginning, and then there at the end, just kind of bookend this.
And then like one time in the middle, just to bring up the fact that the First Order isn't necessarily bad.
Right. So this information is getting planted, but we never catch quite back up to it.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
So Kaz talks to Yeager about contacting one Poe Dameron and giving him an update and letting him know what's going on. And Yeager immediately pumps the brakes on that. Like, hey, slow your roll. If you want to do that, you're going to get yourself caught real quick. And you're going to bring the First Order down on all of us. And that's not going to happen. So I'm going to keep you from doing that. Which definitely shows his... maturity's not the right word, but experience, I guess, as far as...
reserve and level-headedness, maybe, too.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
So...
This is a scene where I appreciated both sides, too. I agree with Yeager, for sure, between the two, but I do appreciate seeing some strong emotions out of Kaz.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the first time, really to this level, to this degree, about something so serious.
Yeah, he's committed.
Yeah, he's very committed, and he's very fired up. You can see that he's very angry in this scene, and I don't think we've seen him quite this angry like this.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, so I think, like Yeager, I would be like, yeah, no, like, like there in my mind, I'm like, Kaz, what are you thinking? Like, of course, First Order is gonna be monitoring shit, but I understand the emotion behind it.
For sure. A small tidbit that I noticed in the scene is that Kaz, we've determined Kaz understands BB-8, right? He talks to him.
Right.
They talk back and forth all the time. He does not understand Bucket. Because it's Kaz, Yeager, and Bucket. It's Kaz and Yeager talking, and then Bucket comes up and toodles something. And Yeager's like, oh, somebody's here. He has to articulate to Kaz what Bucket is saying. They don't just both look at each other and they're like, okay, let's go,
Like, let's head on out. Yeah. Do you think... Because I feel like if you understand droid speak, you should be able to determine most of it.
I guess BBs speak different than ours do.
But is this just like a convenience point just for the audience, maybe?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Because I feel like there's an easy work around this where, like, Bucket rolls in and they both just go, like, stormtroopers. What?
Right.
Here?
Or fucking Nico again. Niku.
Right. So, yeah,
Niku's definitely very proud of himself.
Quite. Yeah. Niku is glad that he is proud that he brought him back and brought back a group of them so that Kaz can interact with them.
Yeah, which I guess there's like a front door to their shop or something, because usually what we see is just like the big garage door that's open. But Niku says like, yeah, I came back from lunch and there were stormtroopers waiting outside and they wanted to talk to you, so I let them in and here they are. Aren't you happy?
Well, are you talking about the big garage door that leads like out onto the platform?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because like there is some sort of door that leads into like a regular hallway.
Okay.
Into the innards of the Colossus somewhere.
Okay.
Yes. Now I'm trying to think back of when we might have ever seen that.
Yeah, the geography of it's kind of weird because it's like you've got the garage door on one side and then on the other side you have like Yeager's office, and then deeper in Yeager's office is like a secret garage where his super fast fighter was, and then there's like storage places with the super fuel, and then there's got to be some lodging somewhere because they live at the garage,
in the shop somewhere.
In the shop,
yeah. But I feel like every time Tora and what's the other gentleman's name, Elijah Wood's character,
shit, I don't remember.
Rucklin. Every time they show up, I always feel like they were kind of entering from not the garage side. Not always.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, Niku being proud of that is very interesting to me because basically he's just like it's like being proud that you answered the door because like the mailman knocked,
Yeah.
It's like they were there and all he did was open the door and just politely invite them in.
Yeah, all he did was get back and like open the door, and they followed him in, more likely.
Right. Yeah.
So, the next thing that I had was this. You briefly addressed the code, in air quotes again, that Kaz uses to talk to Sonara, and I guess he just doesn't have the gusto to be like, "Hey, I know you're a pirate." And First Order's looking for pirate spies, and that'd be you, so you need to bail. Because he's like, I wanted to talk to you about something, just like stuff or food. And then he says...
he chooses an analogy that doesn't fit. This, I think, was kind of funny, because he was, thinking on his feet, I guess, and... as he keeps trying to use this analogy / code speak, it keeps falling apart more and more. But because of that, for whatever reason, I just thought that was funny.
So food becomes code for being a spy, right?
Right.
And at the very end of the episode, or near the end of the episode, Sonara says to Kaz, "Good luck with your food."
Yes.
Does she know that he is a spy of some sort? Is that what that was? Or was that just her, like, saying, hey, good luck?
I think it's...
because I'm thinking that she knows that he's some sort of... I'm
trying to think if we've ever seen her suspect or anything prior. But there was that scene with her talking to Kragan that brought it up.
That there was a potential resistance spy?
Right. Well, no, not even that. It's wasn't there a scene in either previous episode or a few episodes back where Kragan was like, well, like, the people who picked you up, like, wasn't one of them resistance? And she goes, wait, what?
Yeah. He says the two pilots that brought you in are resistance. We know that. We just don't know who they are. And then we talked about whether or not she was awake or she knew that it was Kaz and Poe.
Right.
Or not.
Because I think when she comes to, she's like on that, like...
she's already on Yeager's...
shuttle bus.
Shuttle bus.
Yeah, the shuttle bus, is like, I think I called it. So she really only sees Kaz and Yeager. So yeah, then the question is, does she realize that Kaz is a pilot that brought her on, or does she think two other pilots brought her in and shipped them off to Kaz and Yeager?
Yeah, I'd have to rewatch that episode because, I mean, Kaz might just lie to her and be like, hey, some fucking people dumped you off, and like... yeah. Or something.
And that would be the smart, easy thing to say,
But
like...
she's been living this lie on this platform for a while. And Kaz always seems to be fucking sneaking around, right? And, like, during the Doza Dilemma, like, there was that scene where they're playing, Drone Blaster, right? Mm-hmm. And Tora starts talking about how her dad thinks there's a spy, and they both, like, perk up, and they're like, what, spy? No.
Spy?
No spies here. Why would there be a spy?
Where'd that come from? Right, yeah.
So she's got to be picking up on that, too, because she has to be older than Kaz and like more experienced than him.
I can't figure out the ages of anybody on this show at all. But
because they all look the same age except for Yeager because of his beard.
Right.
But the main cast, like, for sure, they all look relatively the same age.
Yeah, including Bucket.
Okay.
But no, I think she knows. It's a stretch based on what we've seen, but I think that scene is trying to let us know that she knows.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was just her saying, hey, good luck with your spying. Like,
I took it as she knows something, and because neither of them will confirm nor deny it, per se, But I will agree that if definitively that is her saying she knows, they didn't do the work to get us, or get me at least, to fully buy that she would know.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
I will agree with that 100%.
Yeah. We've gotten the work for Kaz, we've gotten that side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen enough solo Sonara scenes, so it's not like, oh, they're trying to show everything from Kaz's point of view.
Right.
Whereas in this show, we do cut viewpoints a lot. We jump around a lot. So there's not really an excuse to try and just drop this bit of information now where it's like, oh, Sonara knows. I'm like, oh, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, even just like a single line of dialogue like earlier when he's like, oh, food, she could have been like, what type of food do you eat? When he's like, pirate food. And she's like, well, what type of food do you eat? Like, that would have been enough.
Yeah, exactly. Just some little tidbit like that. Like, they could have shaved off like 2 seconds from the elevator scene. Just added that in.
I don't know. I like the elevator scene.
I didn't dislike it. It just was ill-placed.
So the last thing that I've got to talk about before we can wrap this up is when...
Yeah.
So Kaz has a crush on Sonara, right?
Definitely. Yep.
And when she goes to leave, when he's like sending her off into this ship or whatever, she pauses and he says something. What's he say? No time for sensitive goodbyes. And she's like, what? And he was like, what? I didn't say anything. So I'm wondering if this is something that is actually going to be explored more later in the series, or if it's just...
Do you think she's coming back anytime soon, or do you think she's gone for at least a few episodes?
I think she's probably gone for a couple episodes, but she's coming back for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure. She's not gone for good.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this plays and develops. She definitely, in rescuing Tora, I'm very curious to see how soon she might make a return to aid Kaz and Tam and like Yeager's crew, I guess.
Right. Or before she becomes like part of Yeager's crew, basically.
Right, yeah.
I'd say maybe in the season finale, but it's got to be before then, and I don't think it's going to have them in peril. I think Kaz is going to have to like adventure out and do something. But, it puts a damper on things, like, because at the end of this episode, she gets on the pirate ship with Kragan, and they head off to the horizon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he consistently is like, oh, I bet you never thought you'd get off this platform. It's about time you come home. And she's like, yeah, home. Like, can't wait to get home. Like, so
right.
It's unclear as to what that means. Because other things that they've shown is that, or even like the descriptions, it's like Sonara is settling into her life on the platform, and then Kragan's like, oh, you gotta come home. And just the dichotomy there is perplexing, shall we say.
Yeah. I agree there.
So, yeah, that's about all I got as far as discussion points. Unless you've got something else, we can move on to our verdict of this one.
Nah, yeah, I think we kind of hit everything that I wanted to talk about. So
cool. Well,
yeah, let's get down to it. You want to start? You want me to start?
I'll go ahead and start, man. I give this one a thumbs up. And this is like, this one for me is like a solid thumbs up. Like, start to finish all the way through. Every episode's going to have those little things that you're like, eh. But, yeah, for sure. This one, it is a stutter step from the Doza Dilemma last week, but I think we're still moving in the right direction, and this is definitely enough to keep me interested and wonder what's coming next. And so, after last week, I was super excited to watch the show this week. After this week, I'm still excited to watch it next week.
And I am going to agree with you, actually.
Wow.
I have more problems with this episode than you do, for sure, obviously. All the same, I think my thumb is not as high as yours, and I definitely rested on this one for a while. And I think if I were just playing this episode, not taking notes, not doing what I usually do with this show, I think this episode would have played, and I would have been fine. I would have still been annoyed by Niku, and I still would have been annoyed by the elevator joke. I don't know why the elevator joke annoys me so much, or I do. It's just the story is strong enough, and there are little stutters within the episode that bother me. But I think overall, I agree with you. The story is heading in the right direction. I think that's the most important part.
Would the elevator joke be better if it wasn't the two people that were in need of being in a hurry to get someplace?
No.
Like if it was...
Really.
Okay.
It just was not... It's not even that. It just... The pacing of the episode is so frenetic at that point.
It's like a Mr. Bean joke.
Yeah, but then Mr. Bean still kind of has, purpose to it, right? There's still... the show is built around gags, whereas this one is, gags trying to shoehorn in, a story, right? That's my problem with that. But, I'm still... As negative as I'm being, the episode is still... It flows enough, and I like the places the story is going. There are details in the script that I don't like, but I think on the whole, the idea of this first order occupation is played serious enough at most points. Niku would be the only major distraction there, but the fact that Tam and Niku kind of have this debate going, it needs to be strengthened up a little bit. There are things I would tweak here and there, but it's not a bad enough episode for me to go down, right? I can't be that negative on this episode. I think it's still a good enough episode that shows that this show is kind of taking these strides in the right direction, and just kind of seeing even Doza push back and kind of finagle with Commander Pyre. I like that little detail there too.
Right.
That even Doza is kind of in this position that he doesn't know. There's a net positive, but he just doesn't know the true cost yet, perhaps. And I kind of like that idea too. Does that make sense?
He even questions that, when he's talking to his droid, when she's like, "Oh, it's the safest the platform's ever been." He says, "True, but at what cost?" Another thing I do like about this episode is that it does kind of just dump us into what's going on, and it does kind of rely on things that we've learned in the past. Not to the point that if you hadn't seen any of the rest of Resistance, you would just be lost, but you would definitely feel like there was some setup or something else going on. We don't have to start in Yeager's garage and be like, "Oh, we're working on the fireball. Oh, there's an announcement over the PA. This thing's going on. Let's all go to that. Gotta stop by Aunt Z's," and all of those aspects are fine, but it doesn't have that.
It's not all exposition.
Right. And it doesn't have that stuck structure of this, then this, then this, then this.
I agree there, yeah.
So I do appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, this episode for sure. I think it got for the most part, it got the feeling of Star Wars right.
Okay.
More than previous episodes, and that's why I still am digging this episode. I think now that we are seeing a lot of stormtroopers, I think that helps. There's something about stormtroopers and being
Interesting.
oppressed to some degree that I think the show kind of needed, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of validates why Kaz is there.
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, the story is taking the steps in the right direction. You know, as nitpicky as I've been about this, I think overall, this is still a pleasant enough episode, and I just hope it tightens things up a lot more in the future ones. It's not my favorite episode of the show by any means, but it's nowhere near like a bad episode, and that's why I'm still tilting up on this one.
Cool. So, can you give this a one-word review?
Oh, I didn't think about that. I always forget about this one.
Yeah, I totally just thought of something. Something that I just said, I was like, I'm totally using that, and now I'm losing it. You can do it.
No,
you can do it, Lorenzo.
I don't know about this one, honestly.
Boil
this
it
one
down.
is it's a little over the place, but I don't know. I'll let you go. I got nothing for this one. My mind frame is not in the right place for that.
I'm gonna talk through this, and you're gonna give me a word here shortly. I know you are. When I watched this the first time, like, I Googled the phrase, how do you say this is friendship building in a single word?
Mm-hmm.
And Google failed me. So then I was like, all right, the closest thing I can think of to that, like, as far as the internet goes, would be like shipping. And I didn't like that. I mean, it's pretty close to what's going on with Kaz and Sonara. Yeah. But as we were talking, I said that the events that happen in this episode validate Kaz being there, so I think that this is validating for the story as a whole. So that's what I'm going with.
Okay.
Tried to buy you some time.
I still I understand your reasoning for that. That's still not the word I would use for this episode per se. Like, I don't know, as a descriptor for this one.
Would you like to hear some of the other descriptors that you have used so far?
What have I used? Yeah, I don't recall.
Whimsical, disjointed, annoying, self-contained,
which is
merchandising, bored. So, those are not in order, and I'm missing a couple I got to go back and fill in, but
yeah, like this one, I don't know. I honestly have nothing on this one.
Alrighty.
It's just because, like, like I said, like, I'm giving this a thumbs up, but I'm still mild on this episode.
Mild it is.
Maybe mild. Yeah, maybe mild. It's going to be mild.
Alright, we have a mildly validating episode this week, guys. So, next week we have an episode titled The New Trooper. So, here's what I hope does not happen. I hope we don't get, like, an orange trooper or a purple trooper or a magenta trooper. Like, we've already we discussed this before.
So what do we got? No, so we have Captain Phasma, Commander Pyre, Major Von Reg. Do we get like a general up in here? Like, what? Is there like a
Peon Pedro and he's purple? I have no idea.
Like a rose gold stormtrooper shows up?
That would be terrible. So
we'll see. We'll see what we get next week. That'll be coming out.
Do you want to know what my speculation is?
Go for it.
My speculation is that Kaz goes undercover as a stormtrooper.
Ooh, very good. Very good prediction. I have no predictions. We'll see.
Yeah.
But we're making our way through the season. You know, there's not too many left. So.
Not too many. There's 3 episode titles that are out, and potentially another 5 after that. So, a couple more months, and this season is going to be gone. Then we get to speculate for however long about what's going to happen next season. So,
God, yeah, we'll see. All right. As always, we want to thank Lindsay at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. She put together our jingle. We also like to thank Kevin Warren, who put together our cover art. You can reach out to him at They Call Me KDub on Twitter if you'd like. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can reach us at via email at notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com. Kevin here is in charge of our Twitter. That's at NotTheNerds. I at times update our Facebook. That's at NotTheNerdsPodcast there. Give us a like or a subscription on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you're listening to this. We're also available on YouTube. Just give us a like, comment, subscribe, any of that goodness. Just let us know what you're thinking, how we're doing, what we might be able to do to improve. And
thus far, I have been really good about responding to any comments that we get on YouTube. Nearly instantaneously. I was at Lowe's the other day and somebody said something and I just stopped with my cart in the middle of the aisle. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I gotta talk to this people here."
Kevin really engages, whereas I just kind of, I don't know. I'm in my own world when it comes to social media, so
you're a little mild on it.
I'm quite mild on social media, yeah. So with that said, I've been Lorenzo Phan.
Kevin Hord.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Mildly validating.